Hi, I'm Rashonda. I'm the creator of this YouTube channel as well as the artbyro.com website where you can find over 200 art and drawing tutorials. So after this video, if you like, go ahead and check that out. Today we're going to be making a graffiti letter A. I'm going to be doing mine on an artist trading card. If you're not familiar with those, check out the description box. There's a freebie in there for you, a little beginner's guide that's very popular. So go ahead and check that out. And without further ado, let's go ahead and go on over to the art studio and get started. All right, let's draw a graffiti letter A. Of course, there are many different ways that you can draw your letters. I'm going to show you just one way, one style. So what I like to do is start out with some basic guidelines that will show us what the flow of our line's going to be for our letter. And also it gets us the size and placement on our paper. So you start off kind of like you would if you're just drawing or just writing a letter. And then we're going to use this to guide us in how our letter is going to be formed. So I know I want to vary the width of some of my lines. So I'm going to use this as my guide, thinking about how I want each part of the letter to flow. I want this to come down here longer. I want this one longer than this one. It's going to kind of come across on an angle this way. And you don't have to stick with that 100%. You can play around and make some changes as you go. And then if you want, you can erase. I love these click erasers for cleaning up while I'm drawing. They work really nice. You can get into smaller areas. And then I want this to kind of come out a little bit here. Sort of flare at the bottom. Think about things you can do to make your letters just a little bit more interesting to look at. And then up here, I want this to extend out a little bit. And then it's going to line up with this middle. And then from there, you can just kind of play around with the way everything flows, the thicknesses of the letters, how you want these pieces to come out here. Maybe you decide you don't want that. And then this will all be open there. And then you can just kind of play around with readability of it. Do you want it to look more like a letter A or a little less like a letter A? You want it to be more of a wild style kind of a feel to it. So you can make your letters as complex or as simple as what you want to make them. That's up to you. So the next thing I like to do is outline my letters. And I usually use a Sharpie pen. You can use a marker. I like these pens because they make the line that they create is a lot bolder and more crisp than with markers. This is a little bit of a darker black than what you get with a marker. The markers will bleed into the paper a little bit, where this does not. So I just prefer the way it looks. The bad thing about using a pen is that you don't get a very thick line. So in order to get a nice thick outline, you have to go over it a few times. So if that's something that will bother you or feel a little bit too tedious, then you probably want to use something a little bit thicker. Now from here, you can make your outline thicker and more bold. You could add a drop shadow. You could do 3D. There's a lot of different ways you can finish off your letter once you get the design that you want down. And by the way, I'm doing this on an artist trading card. I do a lot of my drawings on artist trading cards. It saves me time. And I like to keep them in a binder and make kind of a little portfolio. And then eventually, when I feel up to it, I will trade some of my cards and get some artwork from some other artists around the world, which is fun to do. It's a little bit time consuming to do it just because you have to kind of organize the trades and mail everything out. Sometimes you got to go to the post office depending on where you're sending it to or how thick the envelope ends up being. So plus you got to get it all packaged up, and it doesn't take a ton of time, but it does take extra time, and you have to be organized with the trades and such. But I do enjoy trading my cards. I've been doing that for, probably about 30 years now. I have a couple binders filled with really cool artwork from all over the world. But I also just like making them on the artist trading cards for the time-saving aspects, and also because I like being able to have them in a binder instead of having artwork just piled up everywhere, laying in a closet somewhere or on a shelf. I can flip through my binder when I want to. So that's it for the outline. Now, like I said, you could put a little drop shadow on there. You could do some 3D. There's different things you can do with your lettering. And then the next thing's going to be to add some color and to put a background in here. Okay, so after you have the outlining done, you can use a block eraser to get rid of these pencil lines. Just go right on over top of everything. Sometimes when you do this, you'll notice some gaps in your outline. If that happens, just go back and touch it up a little bit if you need to. Get rid of your eraser shavings. And then at this point, we can add some color, or you could go ahead and do your background first. Whichever way, it doesn't matter. So what I like to do is use at least 2 or 3 markers in the inside of my letter. And what I do is I have these little scrap pieces of paper. This is left over from when I cut out my artist trading cards because I make my own. And I can try out my colors that I want to use. So typically the way I will work is I'll take my lightest color and I'll fill that in wherever I want the lighter color to be. Now often I will just fill in the entire area and then go over wherever I want it darker. You could also do your darker color first and then fill the lighter colors in. I like to work light to dark. That's just my personal preference. So you might have to try it different ways and see what works for you, what way you like the best. And then also, if you want to be able to have more control over how your colors blend together, you will need to work while the markers are still wet so that they will blend. This style of or technique that I'm using for the colors today, it's not really necessary to work while the marker is wet because I'm not going to worry about blending them. I'm just going to lay some of the darker color down And I'm just putting in a few lines of the darker over top. And you can do this as much or as little as you want. So this is why I like working on the artist trading cards, because they are a little bit quicker. It gives me a little bit more freedom to play around, experiment, try some different things. If I do this and I don't love how it turns out, it's not the end of the world. I can do another one. I can scrap this one if I want, because I'm not going to have a ton of time wrapped up into doing this. So I like to play around, try different things. And I found that once I started doing my work on the artist trading cards, that it really opened up that freedom for me and took some of the pressure off of feeling like everything has to be perfect and it has to turn out right the first time around. So you can just kind of play around with your colors, try different things, experiment a little bit. See what you like, what you don't like. And then you can always go back with your lighter color. You can blend if you want, you can darken it up. I'm just going to leave this with a few little stripes in there. I'll darken up this lighter color a little bit, go back over it another time. So now the next thing I want to do is add a background. And the only thing left to do with the letter itself is that I want to add some white highlights on here once this marker dries. And to do that, I will use a white jelly roll pen. This works really well over marker. So now the next thing I want to do is start adding in some kind of a background. And you can draw this out ahead of time. You can just start kind of playing around with some different ideas. So I'm thinking about adding just some kind of abstract sort of, I don't know what you would call these little branches or kind of vein looking things coming off. So I'm just going to put some of these in here. And I'm going to go ahead and do a time lapse for this. And then I will be back when I have the background finished up. Okay, so I got the background finished. I went ahead and added some white highlights in here with the Jelly Roll pen. You can do as much or as little white as you like, or leave the white out altogether if you prefer. If it absorbs into your marker, just let it dry a little bit and then you can go back over it again. So this one's done. If you're not sure what an artist trading card is, you can get some more information about that in the description box. And I will see you in the next video. Happy creating! Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you feel inspired to follow along and to try your own artwork. And don't forget, check out that description box. There's that artist trading card freebie in there for you, as well as some other things. And if you did enjoy the video, please give it a like. It helps us to reach out to more people. And also subscribe if you want to get notified of future videos. I will see you next time. Bye!